morning, everyone, and welcome to First Things First. I am Jenna Wolfe alongside Nick Wright, Kevin Wilds. Brian Westbrook is with us and ensured us he is indeed wearing pants. I don't know why that was up for a debate. We got a big show for you on this Tuesday morning. Coming up, Belichick with a very interesting comment on life after Brady. Kyle Rudolph and Ben Watson are going to stop by. And is Joe Burrow the next LeBron James? That is where we start this morning. Let us dive in. So, the debate has quickly turned from if the Cincinnati Bengals should draft Joe Burrow #1 overall next Thursday to if Burrow should even want to play for a Cincinnati team coming off their worst season in franchise history. One Bengals legend thinks he could have a major impact on the city of Cincinnati. Boomer Esiason said, quote, I equate him to when LeBron James came out of high school his senior year and the Cavs had that top pick. They were the Cleveland Cavaliers, for God's sake. He grew up in the shadow of Cleveland and brought them the championship. Now it's Joe Burrow's time. This is his time. He's got to go home and get it straight. And he's the reason they get it straight. That's the way it should be written, and that's the way he should be looking at it. So, Nick, what do you make of what Boomer had to say about Joe Burrow?
I like Boomer a lot, but I think this is a borderline ludicrous comparison and unfair to Joe Burrow. The NFL is not the NBA. In the NBA, if you get the #1 pick of the draft, that is the single best thing you can win other than a championship. If you look at over the last 20 years, the median #1 overall pick is Blake Griffin, a future Hall of Famer, multi-time All-Star. You have Yao Ming, Zion, Anthony Davis, not even to mention LeBron, Kyrie Irving, John Wall, and I'm leaving a bunch out. If you get the #1 pick in the NBA, you're more often than not set. In the NFL, it is so much more of a mixed bag. We talked about this a few weeks ago. We can show it again here. Post Peyton Manning, the median #1 overall pick for the NFL is probably Alex Smith, maybe Sam Bradford. In fact, in the last quarter century, if you don't draft a Manning brother #1 overall, you're not getting a Super Bowl champion quarterback. So I think it's unfair to Burrow. I think it's ahistorical. And I think that it also disregards the fact that the NFL, unlike the NBA, is so based on where you get drafted. Wherever LeBron went, they were going to be successful because that's how the NBA works with a player of that caliber. The NFL Wilds is not like that at all, and I don't know that there is a franchise in the league less set up for short or long-term success than the Cincinnati Bengals. So it's nothing against Joe, but Wilds, I totally disagree with what Boomer Esiason had to say there.
Nick, I actually liked Boomer's idea, and he was talking about the narrative of it and how great it would be for the city and the state. And I actually don't think it's when LeBron got drafted. I'll twist it a little bit. What about if we looked at the analogy of when LeBron came back to Cleveland? He comes back, and a month later, Dan Gilbert says, okay, let's get Kevin Love. So now we've got LeBron, Kyrie, and Kevin Love. We've got to surround our superstar with other stars. I think the Bengals are also headed down that path. Traditionally, they haven't spent, if we can put up the graphic. This year, they're going all out. Bengals free agent spending. Read this from the bottom up. 2011, 28th, 17th, 15th, last. 16th, 28th, last again. 31st, 17th. This year, $131.9 million, third in the league. You got to respect it that the Bengals are saying, you know what? To heck with the past. Let's surround our guy with star players. Other little thing, Nick. LeBron didn't make the playoffs first 2 years. I don't think there's going to be immediate success for Joe Burrow. But when you see how much money they're spending, you got to think success is coming down the road a little bit for the Bengals.
You know, guys, Brian, let me bring you in here. I was just going to say, Nick makes a really good point. Joe Burrow isn't LeBron James. The NFL isn't the NBA. One guy in the NFL doesn't have the same impact as one guy in the NBA, especially the greatest, arguably, to ever play the sport. What do you make of what Boomer had to say?
You know, I kind of agree with Nick. It's always tough to compare football and basketball because in the game of basketball, that one player can just be the total difference maker. And we saw LeBron in Cleveland as we bring him up. The Cleveland Cavs went from 17 wins before LeBron got there and more than doubled their win total the next year when LeBron came there and became the Rookie of the Year. They won 35 games. And so they were able to win a bunch more games because of LeBron and his talent. And in football, it's a little bit different. You have to have the offensive line. You have to have the wide receivers. You have to have the tight end. You have to have the defense that can bring character to your football team. And all of those positions that I just named, you have to have questions for the Cincinnati Bengals. And can they get it done? The other thing is that I love the fact that Joe Burrow is going to go home. And I think in that situation, there's that comparison to LeBron just a bit. And I had an opportunity. And listen, I went to Villanova, which is kind of in the footsteps right outside of Philadelphia. And there was not as much pressure on me to win. I was a third-round pick. I was a running back. However, there was some pressure on me to try to help that football team to get over the hump. And then we won a bunch of games. We didn't finally ended up winning that Super Bowl, but there was a bunch of pressure on me to be able to help the football team. I can't imagine the type of pressure that Joe Burrow, the number one pick overall, and going back to his hometown in Cincinnati, is going to have to try to win football games. There's going to be a lot of pressure. He doesn't have a lot of talent around him, but that spending that you're talking about they've been doing, Kevin, is certainly going to help him. They have a lot of things to fix in that organization. I think Joe Burrow certainly can help them in a lot of different ways, but there's a lot of things.
Nick, let me ask you this. Are the Bengals even poised for a quick turnaround, given their schedule, given that division? There are other factors than just what impact could Joe Burrow have?
Yeah, I think that Wildes had it right yesterday when he discussed, you looked at the schedule, I thought it was a really good point. They're in arguably the most competitive division in the league. They didn't get lucky with the divisions they play out of division, drawing the NFC East, which while doesn't have any great teams other than Washington, you don't anticipate will have any terrible teams. And I understand the point about spending money, but all money spent is not good money spent. When you spend $131 million in future contracts and more than $100 million of that goes to Trey Waynes, a disappointing former first-round pick from Minnesota, DJ Reader, an overachieving fifth-round pick, and Von Bell, I'd wonder, are you really spending money wisely? And the issue for the Bengals, Wildes, is they have drafted terribly. When they had that successful 5 years with Dalton and Marvin Lewis, while they weren't winning playoff games, they were consistently getting the playoffs. That was built off two draft classes. You got Carlos Dunlap, Geno Atkins, A.J. Green, and Andy Dalton in the 2010 and 2011 drafts. The last 3 years, they drafted Jonah Williams in the first round. He didn't play last year. They drafted Drew Sample right after him. He had 5 catches. The year before, they drafted Billy Price in the first round. He started 8 games last year. The year before that, they drafted John Ross in the top 10. He has 700 receiving yards total in 3 years. Kevin, this is why if I'm Cincinnati, I strongly consider trading this pick for a package of picks from Miami because I have shown such an inability to draft the right guy. I need multiple bites at the apple if I'm Cincinnati, especially because Kevin, I don't think they can compete right now with or without Joe Burrow.
But I guess, Nick, I'll throw the question right back to you. Does Miami want to trade all those picks? Miami's at 3. They're like, we're good. We also want multiple bites at the apple. If everybody wants multiple bites at the apple, I just assume Miami does too.
Well, I'll kick it to Westbrook in the similar vein. I think it would be crazy, Brian, for Miami to trade the 5th pick plus the pick they got for Minkah Fitzpatrick plus one of the picks they got for Tunsil plus something else to move up to number 1. I think that would be crazy and the wrong way to build a team. But Miami, I think ownership feels like we have to get the quarterback. We've been mostly irrelevant since Dan Marino stopped being our quarterback. So I wouldn't do that if I were Miami. But if you were Cincinnati, Brian, and Miami offered you all 3 of their first-round picks this year, would that be enough for you to move off of Burrow at 1?
You know, if I was Cincinnati and I was offered 3 first-round picks with Joe Burrow and I had an opportunity to draft someone like Tua instead of Burrow, I absolutely would consider that. That's something that I would do because this football team gave up over 34 points 4 times last year. They gave up more rushing yards per game than anyone in the NFL. They have a bunch of holes to fill on the offensive side at right tackle, and on the defensive side, they're trying to find a way to stop the run. And so when you're talking about adding 3 first-round picks and you still get a quality quarterback that may have to sit a year in two if you're able to get him, to me, that makes a bunch of sense. That's something that I would consider if I'm Cincinnati.
All right, whether you're Cincinnati or Miami, the draft coming up in just 9 days now. They got a little bit of time left to figure out what they want to do. Speaking of LeBron James, that we just compared Joe Burrow to, yesterday, Nick broke down all 239 of LeBron James' playoff games, basically from memory, building up to a list of LeBron's top 10 postseason performances. Today, we have number 9. Nick, what do you got?
Number 9, and now when people see it, I think they're going to say this should be higher, but then you'll see over the next 2 weeks the top 8. Number 9 was LeBron's first truly iconic moment, all-time moment in the NBA. It's the 48 special against the Detroit Pistons. This is the game where LeBron James, on a team with Sasha Pavlovich, Drew Gooden, Zydrunas Ilgauskas, and Larry Hughes as the 4 other starters, took on a Pistons team that was in the midst of going to 6 straight conference finals and ended their stranglehold on the conference. LeBron did it by scoring 25 straight points, including 29 of 30 in the fourth quarter and the overtimes of that game. He had a dunk to send the game to overtime. He had a layup with less than 2 seconds left to win the game in double overtime. That game was 4,702 days ago. From that moment until right now, LeBron James has been the best basketball player alive. That, for almost any other player in the history of the league, would have been their single greatest playoff moment, career moment ever. For LeBron, it's number 9. Jenna, it is LeBron James's 9th best playoff game, the 48 special against the Detroit Pistons.
Back here with Vikings Pro Bowl tight end Kyle Rudolph. And Kyle, we are going to jump right in this morning. I was going to ask you, because I'm always curious how athletes stay athletic during a quarantine, let's just say. And then I found out you have twin 3-year-old girls, a 1-year-old boy. So I don't even really need to ask, but take me through a typical day. What has changed for you? What are you up to now? What's a day look like for you?
We're very busy entertaining those guys, that's for sure. It doesn't necessarily help me stay athletic, but it keeps me on my toes, that's for sure. It's been fun, for me. Our off season is very dictated by what the calendar says is time to do. And, for us, we're usually gearing up to go back to when we can start working out at the team facility. And this is allowing me to be at home, to be around my kids. So we're spending a lot of time together, a lot of arts and crafts, a lot of puzzles. So it's been fun. It's forced us to stay home and actually spend time together as a family.
Kyle, you're more than a friend of the show. I think you've been on the show. You and Cam Jordan are tied for the most guest appearances on this show, and which is actually apropos because this is a safe space. We asked Cam about his side of this the other day. Now I'm going to ask you about it. That was OPI, right? You can tell us now. It's the season's over. The game-winning touchdown catch in the playoff game against Cam Jordan and the Saints. It's a safe space here, Kyle. That was OPI, right?
It's a reviewable play, and they looked at it. The rule was in there because of what happened to them in that exact stadium the year before. So there was no way I would get away with it. The play was reviewed as a scoring play, so they looked at it and decided it was an OPI. So I just got to go with what they called.
There you go. Okay. Kyle, you're entering your 10th season with the Vikings. You talked about how important it was for you to stay there. You want to stay there throughout your career. I want to talk about Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs famously would always wear that turtleneck, and he would always have the same thing for breakfast every day because he said that routine helped him be a leader. How does your routine and the familiarity of the Vikings help you perform on the field?
Well, he's very right. And, for me, being here 10 years, it has allowed me to establish my routine. And like you mentioned before, it allows you, it's one less decision that you have to worry about. So for me, I'm very routine oriented, especially in season. I get to the facility at the same time every day. I go through the same thing, the same process leading up to meetings. And that usually includes eating the same breakfast. So we have unbelievable chefs at the facility. Yeah. So they always cook me up a scramble with the same thing in it each and every morning. And you just walk up and they already know what you want.
The usual, just like Steve Jobs. Hey, Kyle, you guys are going to travel to Tampa this season to take on the Bucs. They have a new quarterback. Where is it? I know I put it down here. Tom Brady. How disappointing for you to see Brady join the NFC?
Yeah, it would have been nice if he stayed in the AFC and we see him once every 4 years. But now we'll be going down to Tampa to play Tom, and you just kind of look at their roster and all the talent that they have around him on offense and an up-and-coming defense as well. So, Tom didn't go there by mistake. Obviously he took that into consideration, and now the best quarterback of all time is in our conference, and we're going to have to go play him on the road.
Kyle, in the NFC last year, you could make the argument the best trio, wide receiver, tight end, Thielen, Diggs, Rudolph, what you guys had in Minnesota. Obviously, 1/3 of that trio was traded away this offseason with Stephon Diggs going to the Bills. What was your immediate reaction, your gut reaction when you heard Diggs had been traded?
Well, it's a bummer because, I know what Stephon brought to the table each and every Sunday and the competitor that he is and the fire that he brought to our offense. But at the same time, I know that Rick Spielman and George Payton and everybody else that's behind those decisions have our team's best interests in mind. And, I have all the faith in the world that they're going to take those 3 draft picks that we're able to get for him this year and bring guys in that'll help our football team win games. Obviously, you're not going to be able to replace a Stephon Diggs caliber player immediately, but I think the way our roster is set up, you add 3 more guys, it'll allow us to hopefully take the next step.
Kyle, there's been rumors floating around that Gronk might come back, and as a Patriots fan, I'm very happy, but it would be great to see him back in the league, but I'd be a little bit sad if he wasn't with the Patriots. And I can't tell how much credence to give this. Jason Witten retired, came back. Ben Watson retired, came back. What is it about tight ends where they can retire and come back, and you're the same age as Gronk? Do you think that Gronk could still have more in the tank?
I definitely think he still has more in the tank, but at the same time, he seems to be doing really, really well in his post-football endeavors. And I think the wrestling world would be extremely disappointed to see him back on the field on Sundays.
All right, Kyle, we're going to switch gears now, play a little game. Ours is less physical than football. Ours is called Drawing a Blank. Nobody's going to hit you. First up, we are going to ask you to set your bias aside for just a moment. The best tight end currently in the NFL is blank.
The best tight end in the NFL currently is Travis Kelce.
How come?
I think if you just look at what Travis has done over the last 4 years, the only tight end in NFL history to have 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons. It's one thing to come into this league and to be a flash in the pan and to have a great season. But you look at the 4 seasons in a row that Travis has had and the consistency at which he's played over the last 4 years. It's pretty incredible. Obviously, it's something that's never been done in the NFL before.
All right,
when you say Travis Kelce,
okay, yeah, no problem. So we'll leave Travis Kelce alone. Take the Vikings out of it. The best team in the NFC, aside from your team, the team that you think has the target on their back, is who?
The best team in the NFC, I would say the Saints. I just go back to consistency. You look year in and year out. They're a team that's there come January. They're a team that's trying to make that next step, just like we are, and get back to the Super Bowl.
Who's the surprising team, Kyle? If the Saints are the consistent team, who do you think could be a surprising team?
It's funny. Each and every year, you kind of look at. People always think you look at your schedule and you're looking at the teams like, okay, this, what you're going to get from this team and that team, and each and every year there's a San Francisco 49ers that won 4 games the year before, and then they ended up playing in a Super Bowl. For me, I always look, somebody's going to turn it around, whether it's a New York Giants, a Washington Redskins, a team that has a fairly high draft pick, and then they end up being a playoff contender. So those are teams that I always look for to turn things around.
This will be my second Gronk question. We see you talked about how great of a wrestler Gronk is and how much of an asset he is to WWE. If you were to be a wrestler, what would your nickname be, and would you have a favorite finishing move?
That's a great question. I was actually, Adam Thielen did a radiothon last week, And I got asked this same question about potentially joining WWE, and Adam's like, "Oh, it's great. Your nickname's Big Country. You could do Big Country, and that could be your nickname in the ring." And I joked that guy, Big Country, would get his butt kicked in the ring. That's not serious enough. That doesn't have the persona behind it to be a big time wrestling name. So I don't know. I'd have to put some more time into that because Big Country just doesn't seem like it would cut it in the ring.
All right, Kyle, we know you love your guy, Kirk Cousins, but if you put him aside for just a second, let's take it back to a question on the field. Other than Cousins, the current quarterback you would most want to play with is blank.
Current quarterback. So when you asked earlier, I was thinking it was perfect because the 2009 Vikings-Packers game was getting replayed last night, and I missed Brett by a year. Brett retired in 2010. I came in 2011. I was like, oh, this is a perfect question for me to talk about Brett Favre. But you said current quarterback. For me, if I had to pick one current quarterback to play with, I would probably say Patrick Mahomes. And I would say Patrick because just of, the way he plays the game, it almost looks like he's out there on recess, and his improvisation, the way that he extends plays, as a pass catcher, you love that because hey, if I just get open, he's going to get the ball to me.
So it's really interesting because you told us the former quarterback, it sounds like, was going to be Favre. The current quarterback's Mahomes. Again, if we take Cousins out of it. As a receiver, and I know you're a tight end, but as a pass catcher, I should say, is there maybe a little added element of fun for because Favre and Mahomes have similar styles? Kind of draw it up in the dirt and go make things happen. Is that what kind of draws you to both of those guys?
Absolutely. I think that's one of the things as I was watching the 2009 game against the Packers with Brett, and you kind of look at Brett throughout his career, and, I hear stories from so many guys that were around in that 2009 season and just how much fun Brett had playing the game. And, to talk about Kirk for a little bit, that's one of the things that I enjoy most about Kirk is his competitiveness, how much he enjoys being out there on Sunday. You want that quarterback to be a guy who has that fire and just wants to go out there and compete and have fun. And that's what Kirk does each and every Sunday.
So what's the balance, Kyle, between having fun and being sort of fierce at the same time? It feels like that's a special type of personality that can combine those two things in the huddle.
Absolutely. But I think it's something that can come hand in hand. I think you can have fun being fierce. I think it's something that when you're that fierce competitor and it's what you truly love doing, you have fun and you enjoy doing it on Sundays.
Kyle, as always, thank you so much for joining us this morning. All the best to you and the 3 young kids you have at home. We're going to take a break.
Yeah, good luck with the kids, bro.
Right after this.
My God. Good luck, Kyle.
Back here, first things first, now joined by Super Bowl champ Ben Watson. Ben, good day to you. Amazing day to you, considering we just found out you have 7 children at home who are all being homeschooled, and you think and you say life is in relatively good order in your household. Bless you, my friend. You should start your post-football career just advising other people on how to maintain sanity at home. What has life been like for you since you decided to retire from football? I'm sure this is not how you thought it was going to look. Home with everyone all day, every day.
Definitely not, considering the coronavirus that we're dealing with. But I have to say that you have to start off with the right woman. If I had the wrong woman, having 7 kids at home would be incredibly horrible. But we are doing well. Everybody's healthy. We're definitely in some unprecedented times here. But everybody's good. The one thing I found, I think, is that the kids actually enjoy being together more than we thought. Now, we have our fights and our arguments like everybody else, but we have a schedule every day, and they're doing a great job of getting along. I think they're creating a lot of memories that'll last well past this time in history.
It's unbelievable. And a little more context for folks where we get to the football. Ben's 7 kids are all 11 years or younger. I don't. I feel like you said you have a great wife. I feel like you need a great wife and 5 extra full-time employees to help you with it. But we'll get to the NFL and leave your family alone for now. Tom Brady said something really interesting to Howard Stern, which was he knew basically going into last year that it was going to be his last year. with the Patriots, did you or other guys in that locker room have that same feeling that Tom knew this was his swan song with the team?
Well, I've been gone for a decade, and so I didn't have kind of the ramp up of the last several years and kind of understanding how things were going or really talking to him on a daily basis like I was able to this year. Obviously, you've been somewhere for 20 years. He's done so much, won 6 Super Bowls. Things run their course. And he was in the last year of his deal, didn't have a new deal. As football players, we understand that on any given day, any given week, even the most important player, it seems, on a franchise could be gone. I personally wasn't quite sure. I knew there was a possibility because I've seen a lot of football. And talking to him throughout that year last season, I knew no deal was done. I knew it was going to go to free agency. But even then, you never quite know how things are going to turn out. So I was somewhat surprised as much as anybody else. But on the flip side, I wasn't surprised because I understand football. I'm happy for him, though. I'm happy for him to have a chance to go somewhere he wanted to go, have a new challenge. Sometimes even the great ones need something different. They need a change of scenery. I think that has as much to do with this as anything else.
Ben, you've seen a lot of quarterbacks. What was your impression of Stidham, and how should Patriots feel about Stidham?
I've seen a lot of quarterbacks for sure. I've seen a lot of guys who come in with a lot of hype who didn't pan out. Seen guys who came in under the radar and turned into being superstars. Stidham has all that there needs to be for somebody who's going to be successful. He's a student of the game. You hear that a lot, but what that really means is that when we're in the meeting rooms, he's paying attention. When they're in the quarterback room, he's paying attention. When he's on the field, he's taking instructions from the coaches. He's able to disseminate information to the guys in the huddle. He's able to encourage them and kind of go through the minor details about route running, about reading coverages, all those things. And he's eager to learn, and he has a certain humility about him with confidence. And so he had a chance to learn under arguably the greatest quarterback to play the game. And so he soaked that in for a year. Patriot fans should be confident that he wouldn't be in that room if Coach Belichick didn't think that he could help the team.
You just made Wilds very happy. All right, Ben, I'm going to put you on the spot here.
I feel great.
You played alongside Brady and under Bill Belichick. Who do you think was more responsible for the Patriots' success, Tom or Bill?
Yeah, what came first, the chicken or the egg? That's a great question, and I think it's obviously a combination of both. It's obviously a combination. You can't separate the two and expect the same sort of success that they had. They each play different roles. Now, then the next question is obviously who's going to be most successful when they leave and separate where they are now. I think they both will be successful to some extent, but I don't think they will accomplish near the success that they had together. This was the perfect storm at the perfect time with the perfect hungry player who got an opportunity because somebody got hurt, and then you've got this defensive genius and also a guy who doesn't show partiality to players no matter who they are. They were the perfect blend at the perfect place with the right ownership to have this sort of success. They wouldn't have been as successful apart from each other.
Ben, I want to follow up on something you said there at the very end, which is part of what makes Belichick and so successful and so great is that, as you put it, he doesn't show any partiality towards anyone based on past performance. It's always about what you can do next and what's best for the team through his eyes. But I would imagine for certain players who feel they have graduated past that, they have earned a little more than just being a number on a spreadsheet. That could rub them the wrong way. You're also one of the most educated, intelligent athletes I've ever encountered. So I'm sure you understand it from a logical perspective, but from a human perspective, it can still be wounding. How do guys deal with Belichick's very cut and dry, almost maniacal nature when it comes to crafting the team? And have you seen guys say, man, I saw it happen to other people. I didn't think it would happen to me.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation sometimes, and especially when you look at guys who are very accomplished in other places. Maybe they come to New England after having a Hall of Fame career somewhere else, like a Junior Seau who comes in and we're sitting in a meeting room and Bill is telling him, of all people, how to blitz the A-gap, as if Junior Seau doesn't know how to blitz the A-gap, and correcting him on how he's blitzing said A-gap. And so you have that clash, and there's a certain type of player, not bad or good, that is able to accept that. But I think the reason why you're able to receive some of that criticism is because you know the possibility of a great reward, meaning winning and a Super Bowl championship. Over time, those things can definitely rub a player the wrong way. I'm not here to say that he treats everybody the same. Rookies always get it the worst. But he does have a reputation of saying, look, it's about accountability. It's about what have you done here, not last year, not in some other place. What have you done here yesterday? And so it is tough mentally, I will say, for a lot of players, myself included.
Ben, was that process that Belichick had the same throughout your career in both stints with the Patriots? Or did you notice something when you came back, said, oh, this is a little bit different. This has evolved. This runs differently than I was used to?
Well, it's amazing what a little bit of jewelry will do to you. There was a little bit of a difference after being gone for a decade and coming back 3 rings later. He had more of a softer side, I would say. Before, it was you never saw Coach Belichick smile, at least in the meeting rooms. You never saw him do jokes and stuff, even though he has a great sense of humor, a lot of it off the field, obviously, away from the cameras and everything. But I did in this stint with the Patriots see a different side of him. And I think part of it is obviously everybody changes over time. Everybody matures. Everybody goes through different things in their own life struggles. And they become different people over time, and they see things in a different way. I think the same thing happened with Coach. The same thing happened with Tom after being away. The same thing happens to all of us after a decade.
Wait, I have to just follow up on that. You think that Belichick got a little lighter, a little softer, a little funnier, at least off camera? Give us something. Give us a Bill Belichick story that none of us would know. All we know are the 4 words he usually gives us at a press conference. You've been with the guy. Give us something to give us a little insight into Bill Belichick. Yeah.
Well, rookies always do. Well, actually, it's kind of changed now throughout the NFL, but there was a tradition that rookies always did, rookie shows. During training camp, rookies come in. About halfway through, they either have to do a joke, they have to sing their school fight song, they have to do some sort of show put together. And this year, coming back, I don't know how long he's been doing this, but it was new to me because this is my first year being back after a decade. We divided into teams, and Coach Belichick actually participated in a rookie team show of entertainment. He was on the stage telling jokes, making fun of other people, making fun of himself, having a great time. And it doesn't mean that he still didn't demand the utmost respect. It still didn't mean that he still held the standard very, very high when it came to how we performed on the field. But there was a sense of humor there and kind of let your hair down type deal that I really appreciated, that I don't think, well, actually I know, wasn't the case before. And as we've seen, still successful, still greatest all-time coach, still wins, still Super Bowls. But again, people change over time. And also, I would say that players have changed. We talk about different generations of players. Guys coming in now aren't the same as the guys coming in when I first came into the league in 2004. And so the great coaches are able to hold certain things true. Certain standards must be held when it comes to performance, but also they're able to adapt to the personalities of the players that are coming into their locker rooms.
Ben Watson, thank you so much for joining us this morning. You have your hands full, I think more than any of us, with everything you got going on at home. And we really, really appreciate it. We want to wish you all the best of luck on your next endeavors as you carve out your post-football career. Again, thank you. Best of luck to you. All right, time for some stories to start your morning. Here we go. Christian McCaffrey and the Panthers have agreed to a 4-year, $64 million extension that'll make him the highest-paid running back of all time. Brian Westbrook, is this well-deserved coming off a season where he had over 1,000 yards receiving and rushing?
Jenna, it was absolutely well-deserved. And it's about time that the running backs get a little bit of respect. And I think Christian McCaffrey, out of all the running backs in the league, certainly deserves it with his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield, be a force in the running game as well. But I kind of look back, and I went back through my notes, the pre-draft notes for Christian McCaffrey, and here are my big questions. Is he durable enough? Can he withstand 250 carries per season? And I think he added some pounds this offseason, and he showed that he can carry the football. 287 carries this year, 4th most in the NFL. He's able to do that. Second question I had was, did he have enough wiggle? Can he make people miss in the hole and create those long runs because he has that long range speed? And I think this year, we saw it a little bit last year, but this year it was his defining moment of making people miss and making people really look foolish and getting those yards after contact. And for me, Christian McCaffrey has gotten so much better. We saw him there at the Super Bowl in Miami, and the first thing I said to him was that you were good last year, 2018, but you've improved so much to be the point where you now have 1,000 and 1,000 rushing and receiving. I was truly impressed with his ability to do all those things. And more importantly, did all those things I just mentioned. He was able to do it for a majority of the time this season without Cam Newton. So defenses were keen on him. They knew exactly where he was going to get the ball at. They knew how many times he was going to get the ball each game, but he still was very productive. And so for me, the special moments that Christian McCaffrey continued to create last year, I think he'll continue to do it in the future as they add more quarterback talent, as they add more talent around him as a whole on that football team.
Nick, you know what one of my favorite parts about doing the show from home is? Like, I've got a bunch of books, and Jenna's got a painting, and you've got some Chiefs propaganda, and Brian just has like a ton of accolades in his back. And Brian did not mention, so I will do it for you, Brian. Christian McCaffrey led the league last year in yards from scrimmage. Guess who led the league 2007 yards from scrimmage? One and only Brian Westbrook, 2,100 yards. Brian, retroactive, get that contract. Maybe Christian McCaffrey sends you a little bit for setting the market for him. So congratulations, Brian. It's belated. I'm 13 years late, but belated congratulations on that. Christian McCaffrey to say thank you to you.
Listen, Brian Westbrook was ahead of his time in many, many ways. I think that should be said before every show that he joins us on. With that said, I think the commentary on the running back getting paid is a little more heart than head from my friend Brian Westbrook. I'm conflicted on this. He's a great player.
Yep.
He is a great guy. I know him a little bit. He's comes from a great family. I'm happy he got his money. But the recent history of running backs getting paid is all disaster. Todd Gurley got paid. He doesn't play for the team anymore. David Johnson got paid. He hasn't been good since. He doesn't play for that team anymore. Le'Veon Bell got paid before he even played one game for the Jets. The head coach wanted to get rid of him. Zeke got paid. I don't know if that's going to work out well. And the Panthers, maybe you do this if you're trying to win right now. But the Panthers don't seem to have any consistency of logic flow on this. We're going to move on from Cam. We're going to give a coach a 7-year contract because we think it's about the long haul. But then we're going to bring in Teddy and we're going to sign Christian McCaffrey to a long-term deal when you don't have to. Christian McCaffrey's been unbelievable. First player in NFL history, 2,500 receiving and rushing in his first 3 seasons. It's spectacular production. But they could have never signed him to another contract and had control of him for 4 more years. The final 2 years of his rookie deal and 2 franchise tags. I wouldn't want that if I were his agent. But if I'm the Panthers management, that's what the Rams wish they had done with Gurley. That's what the Cardinals wish they had done with David Johnson. I wonder if that's what the Cowboys are going to wish they had done with Zeke. So it might not be fair. And the part of me that loves watching the Brian Westbrooks of the world crush the league wants the running back position to be paid better. But in today's market, I don't know that this is a deal the Panthers are going to look back on fondly. I think maybe they should have been shopping McCaffrey to a team that wants to win right now, since they're in rebuilding mode in my eyes once moving on from Cam Newton, Jenna.
Wilds, I agree with Nick. Rams are going to say, we tried to warn everyone. Now you're all on your own. So we'll see what happens. On to the Patriots now. Bill Belichick spoke for the first time since Tom Brady's departure to Tampa. We're realists, Wilds. We're realists. So you have to be paying attention or you'd have missed the 4 words that Belichick used for his answer. He said, it's, quote, water under the bridge. Nick, what'd you make of that answer by Belichick?
I mean, I guess I shouldn't have been surprised by it, or I shouldn't have been surprised by it, but I was a little surprised by it. I get it that Belichick, to use his parlance, we're on to Stidham. We can't look in the past. We can only look to the future. But these are his first real public comments other than a statement since the greatest player in the history of the league left your team. And so I would have thought maybe this is the type of thing where Belichick could have said, listen, I'm going to do this once and one time only. Any and all Tom Brady questions, I'll deal with them now. Instead, he's done what he's been able to do throughout his career, which is say, I won't deal with them now, nor will I deal with them later, and I've never dealt with them in the past, and dare the media to press him on it. But, I mean, I guess Bill Belichick's never going to have to discuss Tom Brady leaving the team. And so it's fascinating, But it is, and I shouldn't be surprised by it, but I guess, Wilds, I was a little surprised that even Brady's departure doesn't pierce Belichick's kind of media role, if you will.
Let's go. We're moving forward. I love Tom Brady. I love the Patriots, but this is exactly what I want from Belichick. I don't need him partaking in what Kevin Durant does, which is taking the bait every time someone wants to ask him about moving to the Warriors. Dude, that was 5 years ago. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm okay if Belichick never talks about Tom Brady again, to be honest with you. We're fine. We're moving forward. That's what the organization needs.
Guys, I think this is exactly what Bill Belichick should have done. I think there are so many times that when you're in an organization and you move apart from a player, now that organization kind of goes in a mourning period. And I remember very, very clearly when the Philadelphia Eagles got rid of my idol, one of my best friends on the football team, Brian Dawkins, and he went to Denver. And there was a point in time where every time we got together as a team, we talked about Doc and the way that he carried himself and the things that he did and the things that he meant for our football team, to the point where we kind of carried that over into training camp and a little bit in the season, because you're always saying, well, the leader, the guy that we always depended on, that guy, Brian Dawkins, isn't here anymore. Well, Bill Belichick and the Patriots, he's saying, listen, we know how great Tom Brady was. We know all the great things he did for us in the past, but now it's time for us to move on. Now it's time for us to say, who is going to be the next Tom Brady? Now it's time to create that type of legacy. And so I think if I'm Bill Belichick and the guys on the team, this is the absolute right thing to do for the Patriots as they move forward.
I'm with Nick again. It would have taken 30 seconds to wax poetic about Tom Brady. You get your closure, and then you move on. We are going to move on. Let's talk about
Jenna's
Brady's
with me on both of these. I might be 0 for 2. Oh, boy.
I know. They're reportedly interested in moving up in the draft, possibly to get an offensive tackle to help protect their new soon-to-be 43-year-old quarterback, Tom Brady. Brian, it got us thinking, how small is the window with Brady for the Buccaneers right now?
I mean, I think it's pretty small. I would say 2 years, but I also think when you talk about moving up in the draft, this might have been part of the conversation that lured Tom Brady to Tampa Bay. One of the big questions at the quarterback position is, can you protect me? And so I think Bruce Arians and that staff, Jason Light down there, said, listen, we're going to move up in the draft and get ourselves a right tackle or an offensive lineman to help solidify that offensive line. And that probably helped to draw Tom Brady to Tampa Bay. But when you talk about that window in a very tough division, I think it's very small. You only have Tom Brady signed up for 2 years. And at 43, now, how much better will he get over the course of those next couple of years?
Nick, I think they should mortgage the future for the next 2 years, draft all the offensive linemen you possibly can, and build a fortress around Tom Brady so he doesn't get hit.
I figured you would say that. I think the window never opened. I think the window for Brady closed a year ago. But what I'm more fascinated by, this came earlier than I even thought was possible. You guys see what's happening here? We are not even to, what month is it? April? I don't even know what day it is anymore. We're not even to the offseason yet. And we've already started. Brady doesn't have enough help. Tom Brady needs more help. Can you support Tom Brady more? We haven't even gotten to the draft yet, and the narrative has already started. Can the Bucs trade up already? Where is Odell Beckham when you need him? Why doesn't he have Julian? Where Brady needs more help, guys. Damn it, get Brady more help, Jenna Wolfe. Oh yeah, Gronk too. Right. Great point. Gronk unretire, trade up in the draft.
We gotta end with
Sorry, Jenna.
The latest Twitter beef that made us all really entertained this week. Our guy Nick Wright versus Pats, 3-time Super Bowl champ Julian Edelman. So Jules took to an old First Things First Twitter post to let Nick know he has a, quote, nice hairline, bro. So Nick, you mad, bro?
Okay. No, I'm not mad. I'm a little perplexed. If you see, the date of our tweet is the 3rd of April. His response was on the 11th of April at 4:23 in the morning. So I'm not saying what Julian was doing, what made him send that tweet and then delete the tweet. I don't know. What I do know is this. Quarantine's been hard on all of us, right? Most notably people that need haircuts. And so do I think I have great hair? No. But I do think Julian Edelman, Maybe it's a little projection because I think male pattern baldness is a side effect of PED use. I'm not certain.
Oh.
But Julian, the hairline's fine. It might be messy. It might be bad hair, Julian, but the hairline's fine. That's all. That's all I got today.
Nick, we're gonna give you
How
another
dare you,
day to
Nick.
fix all that. We'll do it again tomorrow.
Wow.
We gotta go. Stay safe, everyone.